Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of I Think You Should Meet. I am so excited that you guys have returned for this episode. However, I do have a little bit of a clarification, if you will, to make. It's been brought to my attention that I left you guys with the impression that the person that my first guest recommended would then be the featured guest on the second episode. And it absolutely makes sense why you guys would think that, because that's what I originally thought, and I guess I portrayed it that way. In all fairness, still new to this. So to make a bit of a correction, the way that this is going to work is that for season 1, I'm going to interview everybody that I think you guys should meet from my circle. And then the people that my guests recommend will then be the people that I interview for season 2. That way, we don't have any gap between schedules and things like that that would cause a delay in getting an episode out, and you guys are able to continue to enjoy and come back time and time again. So always stay tuned, and we are going to bring in the people that people recommend. It's just going to happen for season 2 and then season 3 and so on and so forth. So thank you to those of you who brought that to my attention. Shout out my friends and family. You guys are awesome. And with that clarification, let's go ahead and move on to learning about who you guys are going to hear from today. All the way back in 2019, when I became a personal trainer, I was lucky enough to be starting out at one of the top-rated fitness companies in the world, Equinox. Now, if you've ever been to an Equinox, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But one of the best things that opportunity afforded me was the chance to work with and learn from other top-tier trainers who were far more experienced than myself. With that, I'd like to introduce you to one of my former colleagues, Logan Ferguson. Logan has an extensive and diverse background in the fitness industry and was a Tier X training manager for Equinox when I met him. Meaning, Logan taught and viewed fitness beyond the limitations of how much weight you can lose or how heavy you can lift. He would do a deep dive into not only the physical fitness, but the entire lifestyle of his clients. All of this is just the tip of the iceberg, though. Having looked up to Logan during my time at Equinox, I then continued to follow his work as we went separate ways in our careers. Logan has more than a decade of expertise in areas ranging from overcoming pain and injury through motor control reorganization and working with paralyzed clients to holistically improving one's quality of life by optimizing the brain-body connection, and the list goes on. So, as if his resume was not reason enough to garner respect, I also remember watching how Logan carried himself with his clients and just thinking to myself how impressive it was that he always seemed to bring a quiet confidence and calming nature into every session, every interaction for that matter. You could see how impactful his relationships were with his clients, and Logan is someone that I aspire to be more like in my life. So I am thrilled to be introducing you guys to even just a tiny snippet of his wisdom today. Now, let's get down to business. First of all, welcome. So excited to have you.
Of course. Thanks. When I saw that you were launching this, I was excited for you. I know that, when we worked together, I didn't spend a lot of time with you, but we were around each other, and I think this is right up your alley. I think this will be good. I honestly do.
I'm so excited that you say that. I remember so distinctly when I started at Equinox, you were one of the people that stood out that I watched, and I was like, I want to learn from him. And so I always paid attention to what was going on, and I've followed you on social media ever since and everything that you do, and it's always been like top of mind when I think about fitness. So the second you messaged me, I was like, that's it. Like, the answers are coming straight to me. He's got to be a guest.
That's cool. Well, thank you for that.
I haven't seen you since Equinox either. So we have some catching up to do on this. We've got a whole lot to cover.
Yeah, it's been some time.
It has. So, I mean, we've gone through a whole pandemic, and I've had like 6 job changes since then. So here we are.
Here we are.
Not really, but like 2 or 3 at least. So, really, I wanted to have you on the show because, your philosophies and your beliefs and everything that you post your content about and what you release as your message is just always has resonated so much with me. So I'm going to get us right into brass tacks because I feel like this could be 3 episodes. I have so many questions. But just to kick us off, I want to have you kind of introduce yourself a little bit, what
Mhm.
you're about, what you do, and then we'll jump into like a little six pack of questions. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sure. Who am I? I am Logan Ferguson. I am a health and fitness professional. I have been in this space, this industry for close to 15 years now. I worked at Equinox for 10 of those years, and then as you know, I left and decided to go out on my own path. I spent some time at another facility learning a ton, which I'm sure we're going to get into, and I can expand on a little bit more. It kind of led me to where I'm at now. Right now, I have my own business, and I work at a couple of gyms downtown in Dallas that I specifically help people that are dealing with movement issues and pain. So, everyone has some sort of pain. All of us have these movement discrepancies, and I just have a knowledge base and a way of working with the body that seems to help people. So that's really like my path right now, and really what I'm trying to do. And again, we can go into that a little bit more. But I'm from Sulphur Springs, Texas. I'm from close by, only about an hour away from Dallas, and I grew up, in this small town with not a whole lot of foresight for my future, anything of that nature. Not a lot of push to go do this or that. And so I fell into what I do now, into fitness and nutrition, by just a little bit of trial and error in college, and then really discovering what it was that I wanted to do. I
Nice.
think that was pushed by a couple of different things from my early childhood, being uh, slightly overweight as a younger child, and likewise seeing people around me that were athletes and admiring them, or people that worked out a lot. And I think that pushed me into this space ultimately. But
Nice.
you know, there's some other things in that background which I'll get into here that have really pushed me to helping people with pain. I think
Yeah.
that's something I want to get across today as well.
No, I'm excited to dive into those things. And I myself have been experiencing some pain now since
Oh
I
no.
went through some stuff last year. I had to get surgery and everything like that. And I've noticed my body is just not the same since. So I'm after this off camera, I may have to bend your ear at some point,
Yeah,
but
for sure, for
it's
sure. I
another
love that.
reason that you stand out to me. It's so applicable. Like what you do may seem so niche, but it's so widespread and it's not limited to an age group. It's not limited to any one persona or type. It's for everybody. So,
100%, 100%. Everybody deals with some sort of pain,
mhm,
physical pain, or some sort of malady, some sort of dysfunction that over the course of time creates an issue for us at some level.
yeah,
And
yeah,
everybody knows that at some level or another. And then there's other aspects of that too, the mental side of things,
oh
which I
yeah.
really, I really hone in on a lot with people as well.
You do. I've seen it. Okay. So we're going to do like just to open up the floodgates here, even though we've got tons that we could dive into off of your intro. I also have this six pack of questions. It's meant to be kind of rapid fire. You're going to answer 1 to 2 sentences if you can. And then we'll kind of dive in a little bit deeper based on some of those answers and some other topics that we kind of discussed. Does that sound good?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Awesome. Question number one. And this is going to be a who, what, when, where, why, and a how. So that's how
Okay,
that's structured. So the
got it.
who is the who has been the biggest influence on your life.
Oh, I'm gonna give you two answers, okay,
Perfect.
real quick. It would be biggest influences would be my dad and my wife.
Okay.
And do you want me to expand on that, or do you want to
Yeah,
just
of
move on and we'll
course.
come
Of
back to it? Okay,
course.
so my dad, and primarily, it's not in the way that you would think. And
Okay.
to get real personal, real quick into this into this
I love it.
topic here, my dad was not an admirable person, not somebody that I look up to in any way,
Hmm.
but the the things that I experienced as a child. My father's passed away, by the way. He died when I was 13 years old. The things that I experienced as a young child has significantly shaped the way that my mind thinks and the way that I
Okay.
perceive the world. Right? Understanding pain, understanding trauma, understanding empathy and compassion for people, and just recognizing the impact that we have on people with the things that we say and the things that we do, and being really conscious of that. And likewise, there were some great things that I learned from him along the way that at the time you're thinking about, you're just a kid and this person's just saying what they're saying, or they're crazy or whatever. But then as you become
Yeah.
an adult or even a parent yourself, it comes to light even more. So he's really, really shaped the way that my life has gone.
Hmm.
Uh, and even the experience of him passing when I was 13 was obviously a tremendous impact on me. But likewise, I would not be who I am or where I am today without those experiences, no matter how traumatic or detrimental they seemed at the time.
Yeah.
My wife, on the other hand, like exact opposite type of person. My wife and I have been married for 12 years, been together for 15, and or 15 or 16. And she, where my father probably taught me a lot about pain and trauma and empathy and compassion and those things and understanding the world. And she helped me recognize the other side of those things. And where when you get into trauma and pain with people, a lot of the time it's very self-focused. And whether it's egotistical or self, just sort of, again, detrimental to the self and to the mind, to the ego, because it inflates the ego. My wife helped me step outside of that, recognizing that cause and effect and the impact of the things that we do and say are
Like
have a greater impact
separating
than just,
you.
yeah, separating me from all of those things and helping me
Hmm.
realize that um, the things I do and say have an impact greater than just what's right here in front of me. And she
Hmm.
reminds me of those things constantly. When we see a lot of things happening in our society that everybody has opinions on, politics and whatnot. Literally everything is political nowadays. Helping me realize if I'm trying to make a decision on where I stand on something, uh, she has instilled into me the more of a moral compass and understanding how if I have a ground to stand on here, how does that impact other people? Because that's who she is. She
Yeah.
really thinks about other people more than anything else, and so and it shows in the work she does. She's an occupational therapist, so
I
um,
love that.
those two people significantly had an impact on my life and where I am today.
I knew I was going to break this rule. Like the 1 to 2, I'm never good at asking
Okay.
questions that beckon a short answer. And I love
No,
that
that's
you
okay.
expanded on that. It's perfect.
Listen, you messed up here by having me on because I will talk. This can be
And
3 hours. Don't worry.
I know I literally was talking to a friend of mine last night and I was like, I am so beyond excited to have Logan on because I know that the way you articulate your message is so great that I was like,
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna ask, I know I'm gonna ask him to do more than one episode. So
It's all
okay,
good.
we'll
Happy to
go
come back.
to perfect. We'll go to number two.
Yep.
Um, so what would be the title of your current chapter if somebody were to write a book on your life?
Current chapter. Current chapter. Um, Something I think I just recently heard was, and it really stuck with me. And I like this for a chapter title. If not me, who? If not now, when? So maybe that's two chapters. I don't know. But if not me,
I think you just
who?
found the first chapter of your first book.
That's it, right?
Unless you've
If
already
not me,
written a book
who?
that I don't know about.
No, no. But that is something, and I fight with myself on that. Do I want to write a book? I want to write a book. I
Yeah.
really do. But one day. I don't know what
You'll
that's going
know
to
when
look
that
like
time
yet.
is right. No, I
Exactly.
love that.
Exactly.
Okay. If not me, then who? Perfect. That's awesome. Okay, so then when was the most transformative age or time period for you so far?
Totally. I already alluded to that a little bit. When I was 13, I
Mm-hmm.
lost my father in a car accident, and leading up to that point was very tumultuous. 3 months later, I lost my grandfather, I was close to, who lived next door to me. So that age really, really impactful. I also I was 13. At 15, I had a brain tumor, so that was really
Wow.
that was a lot, right, to manage
Jeez.
there as well. So that 13 to 15 age was really, really influential for me.
Mhm.
And then again, I'm always going to have two answers for you.
That's
When I was
perfect.
30, something clicked. I don't know, for anybody younger than 30, maybe you're better than me, maybe you're more mature than me. but at the age of 30, something just totally clicked, existential crisis in a sense, but I started really viewing the world in a completely different way. Um, Recognizing how, for the most part, the grass is greener where you water it
Yeah.
instead of always on the other side, right? And so at 30, I think, a few things came into life. I had some new friends come into my life at that point in time that I think influenced the way that I thought. And
Yeah.
it's been, it's been great since then.
There's another title for a chapter in there. You can do one on your 30s, and then that one can be what did you just say? It was something clicked in your 30s, and then
I had an
oh my God, I
existential
use this for
crisis.
no, it was something clicked in your I've always wanted to like I say this all the time. I think that 30 is going to be my absolute prime. I'm just like I'm
Yeah.
convinced for no reason. I've said that for years, and I'm
Yeah.
getting awfully close. So I think it's
It's,
coming.
it's the best. I think when you hit 30, you something changes because I know what I said. I said the grass is greener where you water it.
That one. Yes,
Um,
there you go.
to me, and again, hopefully people get to this sooner because I think it's important for a number
Yeah.
of reasons. But like at 30, obviously we transition into this new decade of life, right? And I think subconsciously we feel like, okay, I'm 30 now. This is a different phase. It feels like a different phase, and you mature just like you did when you were 15 or 20, right? You go through these phases, and at 30, I felt like that's when all the old people that would talk to you and you would ignore, that's when all their stuff started clicking. For
Mhm.
me, at least, it's
Mhm.
like those things they used to
Yeah,
tell
you're
you they'd be
receptive
like,
to
and
those lessons. You can resonate with
exactly,
them at that point. It's like the crossing over into that awareness that you couldn't have before that.
totally. Which is why I think
Okay.
it's important for us to make sure that you're talking to younger people. Make sure
Mhm.
you're talking to kids, and just you can sound old and crotchety or whatever, and you can sound like they're not going to listen to you, but just say stuff anyways because it resonates, it clicks, and
One
they'll get
day
it
it
one day.
clicks.
Exactly,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
Okay, cool. So, next question. This is four. Where do you turn when you need to feel peace or comfort, and why? So we get two whys.
Oh man. Um, you know, uh, in the moment, I have learned to to really turn inward. I know that may sound a little cliche in a sense, but I'm a huge believer of managing your nervous system and calming yourself, and
Mhm.
and there's a multitude of ways of doing that, but just breath work. I turn in. Even just a few seconds of breathing is helpful. Imagery of some place that I enjoy, which is usually a mountainous area,
Yep, I'm
nature,
with you.
forest, things of that nature. That gives me peace and comfort. Just the imagery itself, visualization is huge and scientifically backed for a number of reasons. And then physically, it is that. Like I like to go camping once a year or so
Mhm.
by myself, and that is like great reset for a number of different reasons. Being able to be in nature alone for the most part, minus some hikers that are coming through or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
just being there, it's hard work. It is not easy to do. I like to hike into places or set up camp somewhere where like
Mhm.
I'm everything's on my back, and having to work and do all of that stuff. It's hard work. You're not eating the same. You're not drinking water the same. You're not sleeping the same. It's stressful, but it's also like you're there
Mhm.
in this place that is completely entirely different than what you're used to being in. And if you can enjoy that, it makes you appreciate, or me, I see you, it makes me appreciate everything that I have here at home, like the simple stuff, like a mattress,
It's
that
almost
we don't
like
even
you
think
take your
about.
focus off of the things that are so bothersome to you in your day to day because you get so conditioned to caring about those things. And then when you remove all of that and place yourself in a different environment, when you're focusing on new challenges, it all of a sudden doesn't feel annoying and it feels like growth. It feels like a
100%.
task and like you're learning. So it's
Exactly.
I'm an avid outdoors person. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning a backpacking trip for next year right now. So
Awesome. Where do you want to go?
Spain, actually. So next year I'm gonna do hopefully the Camino de Santiago, which
Wow.
is I don't know. Have you heard of it before?
I have. I don't know how long it is.
Yeah. So there's several different routes for it. I'm actually planning to do the one that is 500 miles. So
Okay. I would love to do
I
something like that someday. That's
yeah.
good for you. Get
Thanks.
after
And
it.
I may have to, all of that's dependent on how I can manage my schedules, but we'll see. We'll see what's gonna happen. So I'm just trying to get myself to a point where I have the resources to do that. So we're working on it. But
Well, when this podcast blows up everywhere, you're not going to have time to do that. So take advantage of your time now,
well,
okay?
I'm gonna take the podcast on the road with me, but
Oh, there you
that's
go. That's
yeah,
even better.
that's an early announcement. I'll cut that one out. But okay, cool. So let's jump into question number 5.
Mhm.
So why did you choose your current job or career?
On a on a base level, uh, I didn't want to sit down. I
Okay.
specifically remember this in college. I went into college wanting to get a communications degree, like switched that within like 6 weeks. I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go into business because why? Like whatever, that sounds good. I spent 2 years doing all my prereqs or whatever it is, the base level classes,
Hmm.
and then I was walking. I was in Walmart grocery shopping, and I just naturally, because I had sort of a mind to focus on what I was eating, that was just kind of like important to me. I would look at nutrition labels all the time, and it just dawned on me. I'm like, well, this is what I like to do, and it comes natural to me. Why not just get into nutrition, right? I could
Yeah.
just do nutrition. So I like went like that week and switched my major over to nutritional sciences.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be nutritionist. Like I'm going to go down this route. Well, I get into like my very first nutrition class, and Dr. Martinez, I remember specifically, she said, if, just so you're aware, if this path is taking you down the road to become a registered dietitian, and 80% of your job is going to be doing paperwork at a desk. And I was
Immediate
like,
no. Immediately
oh,
no.
I was like, no, no, thank you. I think I spent, yeah, like maybe 6 weeks in that, major and went and said, oh, I was like, okay, what can I do? And I don't want to sit down. So I changed it to kinesiology with my minor in nutritional sciences, so still finished
Hmm.
all that out, and then went into kinesiology and non-teaching route because I knew I didn't want to get stuck going a teaching route and becoming, which I love teaching by the way, but at the time I didn't want to become a PE coach. No offense
Right.
to any PE coaches out there, it just wasn't my forte. So didn't want to do that. So went the non-teaching route and really got into physiology labs and things of that nature.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. And last question before we dive into the rest.
Mhm.
How would you like people to remember you?
Oh man, that's a big question.
Hmm.
Um, I want. Sorry, my cat is over here messing with this plant behind me. My,
That's awesome.
I want people to remember me, as as level-headed and reliable. I think that's ultimately I want people to, and so far I think that's been the case. But I want people to know that they can. I was there for them. I was a mediator. I kind of calmed the room. I brought like an energy, but not an elevated energy, a more calm, peaceful energy to every space that I went. That's important to me, and
Mhm.
so that's how I want people to remember me.
I think so far, just from what I've heard, it sounds like there's a reason why you want people to remember you. And it sounds like that stems from, some of those more pivotal time periods in your life where you were younger and those key moments that you recalled earlier would be my guess. But you can correct me if I'm
Uh,
wrong.
one, no, I think you're totally right. I think you're totally right.
Well, it all comes full circle.
I think yeah, it definitely does. I've always been. I think some people, I don't know if we're born with certain personalities and we feed into that energy, or if it can be manipulated over time,
Hmm.
or maybe it gets disrupted. But it seems like ever since I was a small kid, uh, that has been my position in relationships and in my life is to be reliable and understanding and to ultimately be like a mediator between
Hmm.
things. Like I just can bring sides together and sort of neutralize a lot of stuff. And so I take pride in that. I like that
Yeah,
position.
absolutely. So I actually want to use that as our launching point here into the rest of the conversation because I want to know where that moment came. I think it was around the 30-year mark, I would guess, where that where your past fully integrated into who you've, ultimately become today. And if you're willing, I'd like for you to walk us a little bit through what it was like to realize that that was the pivotal period, and how that's brought you to the point that you realize how you want to be remembered and what mark you want to leave and how you show up in a room.
So yeah, you're right. It was, again, it was around 30. I don't know if I remember specifically what it was that just kind of drove me into that mindset. But I do specifically remember on my 30th birthday. I know this sounds really weird to me, but like on my 30th birthday, um, I made it a point. I was going to celebrate my birthday. I don't celebrate birthdays like a lot. Like it's not a big thing to me, but my
Hmm.
30th out it was, and I just made it a point because I've always kind of been the reliable person and the responsible person in my friend group and things of that nature. I made it a point to not be that way that
Okay.
day.
Mhm.
That and
Yep.
that kind of it felt good. That doesn't mean that I'm not that way anymore. I'm still, a very responsible and reliable person. But when I thought about that, it made me realize that it brought a sense of calmness to me where I was like, dude, you can relax. You can
Yeah.
relax. It's okay. And that in itself started playing itself out in a number of areas in my life to where I go back to saying, the grass is greener where you water it. Like instead of always trying to reach for these things in the future and looking for making things better, you can do that. You can have goals, but also be here in the moment and be present
Hmm.
and recognize that, honestly, you have no reason to want anything else.
It's
Everything
it
else is just icing on the cake at that point.
It's such a tough balance to strike though, when you want to stay focused on what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to go, but to remain present. So do you separate those things or do you integrate them? And how do you take what you're working towards and apply it to where you are, but be present where you are still? That
Yeah,
might sound a
sure.
little bit weird coming out, but
I think I understand what you're saying, and it's I don't think it's easy. I think I kind of waffle a little bit right now specifically, I am working on launching a brand with I have a fitness app. I have an app,
mhm,
Pain Free Movement. It's on the App Store, and it's a training app. Like I can write programs, I can do nutrition
mhm,
tracking, I have video calls like this. I could do a number of things and keep track of clients that are either working with me in person or
mhm.
off somewhere else. And so I'm trying to make that come to fruition and learn how to market that. I'm learning a whole new side of business and just taking as much information as I can in. I think and so I'm still working towards that. I'm not being lazy or procrastinating towards doing anything with that. But at the same time, it what it kind of reminds me of is this. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tao Te Ching,
Mhm.
the Taoism, right?
Very, very
Um,
briefly, a good friend of mine, mentioned it's funny that you bring that up. He mentioned it to me not that long ago, and I've been doing some research on it, but go ahead.
yes, no, it's a great, and it's what kind of I think grounds me out a little bit when I get a little too ahead of myself in not being present.
Mhm,
It's this idea. Well, some of it is the idea of you know your effortless striving, right? It's like
mhm,
non-doing in a sense. Um, and so it's like I can have goals and I can have outcomes and things that I want to do. That doesn't mean I
mhm.
just ignore the future at all together, but um, really focusing in on what I'm doing right now will impact that thing that's in the future. And so like putting my energy in here
Yeah.
now because a lot of the time we look out we do two things. We either look back at the past and get
Mhm,
mired down, or we look out in the future and the past brings depression and the future brings anxiety. And
mhm.
so I'm just trying to make sure I'm really good at not looking at the past. I'm just trying to make sure that if I ever notice or feel myself feeling anxious, it's because I'm grasping at things that don't exist,
You're
right?
realizing
And
it's when you see that gap between where you are now and where you wanna be, you start to give yourself that anxiety of, "Oh, I have to do all of these things just to get there," but instead,
sure,
sounds like what you've kind of learned, and if I go off on the wrong direction here, tell me, but if I the way I'm hearing it is if you take who you want to be in the future and you integrate that into who you are now, you're effortlessly going to make it to that point that you're trying to get to.
Exactly. No,
Oh, I love
you
that.
said it spot on. You said it spot on. You know, that is, and if you listen from my perspective, if you listen to all the great philosophical teachers in
Mhm.
religion, spirituality, or whatever, they're all coming back to that similar message. It's like what's in your mind is your reality.
Mhm.
And so if you act that out right now, what you want or don't want for your future will manifest itself.
Mhm.
Right. I
Yeah.
think we get the words like manifest and stuff like that get like
Buzzwords
scattered
now.
around quite a
Right.
bit nowadays, you know,
Yep, yep,
but
everybody's got their own
you know,
definition.
right, you know, and so I hate using words like that, but I mean that is what it is.
It
You
is.
know, you speak everything into existence, but when you're being present, you have to bring everything back to uh, th- a structure. You said, "Oh, there's all these things that I have to do in order to get to the future, but I can only do really one of them at a time." So focus in on
Right.
that, and you know, whether that's whether that one task is something that is you're doing every day, or that one task is something you're doing for the next 15 minutes.
Right.
You just
Yeah.
have to and know that you're on the right path, and don't be afraid to you know, don't be afraid of the roadblocks or the slumps. You know, that nothing
Mhm.
is. I always tell people this: like, health and fitness is not linear. Like, you don't reach your goals in a linear direction. It's a lot of up and down, right? But what we
Well,
want to do
yeah.
is pin some structure around it, and as long as we have that structure around it, we can maybe move pieces around. It's going to help us move up over the
Mhm.
course of time.
So, it's so funny because I think you and I have the similar views on how you can take all of these different subjects like spirituality or somebody's actual physical well-being or their nutrition, and the thread that connects them are they're all related to your health. And
That's
there's
it.
if you're missing one, you're missing the mark on another, probably. Like it all they all intertwine with one another. So what I kind of want to move into a little bit now is that fitness side of it, and how you've entered into the pain-free movement and why that became so important to you. And then tell us a little bit about your business. And I want to learn more about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, of course. Um, how I got so, you know, it's a sequence of a
Always.
progression over the course of my career. I told you how I got into fitness, and then
Hmm.
I got into Equinox, and was a great place to work, a great place to learn. That was more
The
important to me. It
best
was a
place to
great place to
learn.
learn, and so uh, taking the information I had, I got to being that TRX level coach and TRX manager there. I
Hmm.
got a lot of really good information there, and I got a lot of really great people around me that taught me more stuff, right? And so,
Hmm.
and the connections you make, it's just amazing to have that experience. When I left Equinox, though, I was leaving Equinox with this mindset of like, I'm a lifestyle coach. I can do sleep and I can do nutrition, and I can just kind of like I was a generalist, really, what it came down to,
Right.
which felt good to me at the time. It felt like, oh yeah, like I know all of these things and I can speak to all of these things. Um, and so I moved to a place here in Dallas, in Addison, actually, called React. And React is a it's a neuro recovery gym. They have personal
Hmm.
trainers, not physical therapists. They have trainers that specialize in helping people like post rehab, post therapy,
Okay.
people that are dealing with neurological diseases and disorders.
Got it.
And so think severe spinal cord injuries,
Hmm.
stroke, MS, and then maybe another number of other things like amputations and stuff like that. So I went in there, only having this background with, for the most part, fairly wealthy, healthy people,
Hmm.
just trying to, lose weight or improve their health or just get on a regular, schedule and take care of their bodies, to people that
Right.
had really suffered traumatic injuries, changed their entire life,
Yeah.
and being put into that, I'm very thankful for the people that run that place and where they positioned me to, really accelerate my career. They took a flyer on me. They took a chance on me, and allowed me to kind of go in there and learn, and they trusted me, and that was a really awesome thing. They elevated me in a way to, where I had a say so in the gym, and I was, helping them do other things and try to create programs and do all this stuff. But in the meantime, I'm sitting there working with these people, really not knowing what I'm doing, trying to watch the owner, trying to watch these other guys, and get picking up things and working with. And what led me into the whole pain sector is that, and it's only recently dawned on me. I've never dealt with the type of pain that these people have dealt with, right? Like
Mm.
physical. I have not lost a limb. I don't have a spinal cord injury. I haven't been in the hospital for weeks or months at a time. Like none of that. But the connection I made was the trauma aspect of it,
Mhm.
and how um, you know we can get inside of our own heads and really get mired down in the fact that our lives have changed and
Yeah.
that we feel helpless, right? And alluding to something I said earlier, I think I spent a large portion of my life from maybe like 3 to 10 years old, feeling that way, right? Just kind of helpless and not really. And I was very good at putting on a smile and just being, this happy, cheery kid or whatever. But
Yeah.
that wasn't really what it was like. And so I was able to connect with people, I think, really well there,
Wow.
and to make them feel comfortable and calm and listened to and respected. It wasn't an issue for me that, they couldn't walk or that they didn't have, control over their bodies in a multitude of ways. Like it was just like, you learn to, when you're not around people that live with paralysis on a daily basis, like most of us are not, we don't think about how difficult their lives are.
Mm.
To get up in the morning is a 2 or 3 hour process to put clothes on and shower, and get to the gym. And a lot of time, the gym we would train them for 2 or 3 hours at a time, and that was their day. That's what they were
Yeah.
going to
It's
do
their
today.
whole
So they came
life.
to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, and that was it. And then they go back home and they're there again, right? And so a lot of people are that way. And that place, I spent 2.5 years there, and it wasn't necessarily some place I ever saw myself being there for a long, long time. I knew it just wasn't the right fit for me culturally and where I wanted to take my career. But I
Sure.
really absorbed a lot of what I took away from there, from learning about the nervous system, learning about pain, learning about how the structures of our bodies move, and actually how we respond to our environment.
Yeah.
And so I took that, I left, and that's where I'm at now. Is like I know I'm not anywhere near working with people that have neurological injuries. That's not something that I'm trying to pursue right now. But what I do know is that every single day we walk right past people that are dealing with knee pain, low back pain, migraines, neck pain, bum shoulders, broken, whatever. And they walk around, they move around, they do their life, and they're in pain constantly, or they modify their bodies in ways that are just going to create more pain down the road. They don't feel good, they don't
Yeah.
sleep well, and I want to change that for people. Like,
How did we get there though? Where like what that's too much of a
no,
loaded question, I feel like.
it
But
it it,
honestly,
it
it
can.
resonates so much and I'm like, this is everywhere. And I think about it all the time. Like, how did we get to this point as a society where everybody's in pain?
Well, it starts, and we can pull from a bunch of different areas, right? But
Yeah.
I would say here's what I see most often. There are really two common things, and then you can expand on this with screens and phones and things like that. But there's two
Mhm.
common things I see in like these common movement dysfunctions, and the first is that people don't know how to use their big toe and the ball of foot under their big toe, and there's a reason for that.
Interesting.
The second is the fact that because of that, we don't know how to internally rotate our hips very well. So
Okay.
why is that? Okay. Why is that? It's everything, all your posture starts at your feet. And we lose contact with the ground when we're wearing big, bulky, soft shoes, for one, that cram our toes together,
Okay.
right? And then we sit down for 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 hours a day and then go lay down in a bed, right? So I think part of the problem is that we, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago decided to start putting kids at the age of 4 or 5 in school, sitting down in chairs. Listen, my kids go to school too. There's nothing I can do to get out of this at the moment, right?
We've built this
But we
reality.
have this, right? We built this reality and we're living in it right now. We sit in these chairs that are unnatural for the way that our skeleton, functions. Like a good sit should be like all the way down to the floor, like squatting, right?
Hmm.
Um, and we wear really poor shoes. And I think these two things, when we start doing that as young children, we learn these motor patterns to not use our big toes well and to externally rotate our hips all the time. And, we have this collapse of, the ability to use our core, which creates a dysfunction in our breathing pattern. So, it's all of these things. So
Yeah.
I
My
think,
mind is going a million places, but
yeah, yeah. Well,
I'm
and there's a
loving that.
million places to go. Trust me. And so, the things that I try to do with people is one, try to help them to breathe better again, because I think
Hmm.
that is the most important thing. Because even if I'm sitting, if I can sit up properly and
I'm
breathe
gonna do
better,
this.
I know, right? If I
It's
can
like
sit up
a check-in.
properly and breathe better and breathe down low, and I'm not constantly doing this, in a
Building that
micro
tension.
cause, I'm building tension and really not allowing the diaphragm to do its job.
Hmm.
So I teach people how to do that as best I can, and it's a process, to learn to do that. And then once we can get up on our feet, teach people how to internally rotate their hips and use their big toes again.
Yeah.
Um, but the way that we do that isn't by having them, stretch their big toes and stomp on their feet or whatever. It's a process that
My guess
dials
is that
itself.
one has to do with the mind-body connection.
Yes, it does actually.
I'll say that
So,
one sounds familiar.
it's and that's where the breath also comes in. The breath is the
Yeah.
easiest way to connect those two together because it gives you
Hmm.
something that you do naturally all the time. I always tell
Hmm.
my clients it's the first thing you ever did and the last thing you'll ever do. So you should probably
Wow.
get really good at it, right? Breathing is quite important. And so I try to get people to recognize their body through the breath in some way. And trust me, I'm speaking as an expert, but I'm nowhere near perfect. And I'm always learning every single day to get better at how
Yeah.
I coach
It's a
people through these
practice.
things. Yeah, it's a practice. And then from there, dialing in once we have that, understanding more about their bodies, how their body perceives its environment. If I know what causes pain or what causes your brain to say that's not safe to me,
Hmm.
if I understand those movement patterns, I can work backwards and work out of them in a sense,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Um, one of the things I just recently learned, it's opened my eyes up to a completely new world, and it's had absolutely solidified how I work with my clients. Is a system called Square One Systems by Sean
Okay.
Sherman. Like I would plug him away all day long. Square One
We'll put a
Systems,
link in the show
Sean
notes.
Sherman. The dude has something here, and if you want to get rid of joint pain, you want to improve your posture, he's got this system down that makes complete sense to anybody who understands how the skeletal system and the nervous system are integrated and connect and how we move. And that has made the biggest difference on the way that I'm working with people now. And just trying to
Hmm.
integrate all of the other things that I've learned over the years to create my own program and my own system through that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so question for you then.
Mhm.
What do you perceive to be the biggest challenge for people who are trying to get their health back on track right now?
Yeah. It's different for no, it's really not. They're different demographics kind of have a different
Sure.
mindset on things, but I think overall, and it's the same stuff that as a trainer yourself and any trainer, the number one thing everybody always comes in wanting is not from a goal perspective, but why they hire a trainer is accountability. And to
Sure.
me,
Hmm.
accountability means structure, and really, people are lacking structure when it comes to their health in
Hmm.
general.
Yeah.
Um, of course, like I don't expect them to understand how to make an exercise plan, a program, right? But we're talking about like a lack of structure in eating, a lack of
Yeah.
structure with their sleep and how they manage their sleep, a lack of structure in how they manage their mind and their emotions, and that's not to say it has to be like super rigid in all of these
Mhm.
aspects, but if you want to improve your health, that's step one. You've got to set some boundaries up for yourself. I think that's the one
Yeah.
thing that most people are absolutely missing.
But I think one thing that comes to mind when you say that is that actually, I mean, just I wrote something down to ask about this. Like, it feels like sometimes there are so many opinions out there, and there's so many
Yeah.
options and so many resources.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a place for each of them. They're great. It's amazing that people are putting
Totally.
such great stuff out there, but at the same time, there's these new rules about what you should and shouldn't do, and these are all subjective, right? So how do you figure
Yes.
out what's good for you and what's not? Do you have to hire a trainer? How do you know how to figure out what is actually good versus bad for you in your own case?
That's a great question, and I'll say this: number one, there's like two things that I always like right up front, kind of try to instill and remind my clients, and that's number
Mhm.
one when we're talking about things, especially that it's like nutrition or exercise. It's like there's no such thing as good or bad,
Okay.
right? Like good or bad, or those are like non-existent when it comes to health, unless it's going to kill you. Then that would be bad, right?
Right, yeah.
Otherwise, everything has it. Just like these ideas around health and fitness, everything has its place, right?
Mhm.
And then the should and shouldn'ts. The should and shouldn'ts are restrictions that you are um, that essentially you're boxing yourself in if you tell yourself you shouldn't do something. And if I tell my
Sure.
kids
Okay.
you shouldn't do this, especially if anybody who's like has older kids like teenagers, you tell kids don't do something, it makes them angry. Just like if I told you not to do something, it's going to make you angry in some sort of way, right? It's we have a
Yeah.
resistance, a rebellious nature in us, and we're going to fight back against that. And we can tell ourselves, well, I shouldn't eat carbs or I shouldn't do this or whatever, but your willpower will break down at some point in
Yeah.
time. So if we can kind of pull those away from our lexicon and that self talk,
Mhm.
interchange them with something else that is just ultimately a little bit more positive and more fluid. I think that's where we have to start. But
What would be
in
an example
deciding
of that? Like, how would
of like
you how would you swap it out? How would you change, like, a should or shouldn't into something more positive?
So let's see. I had a client just yes oh well a couple of few days ago. She's like, it's not maybe it's not necessarily swapping out. I told her. She said, well, I shouldn't do that. And I said, who told you that? Right?
Mm.
And so I think that's where I'm going with that is if it's not swapping the word out for something more positive, it's recognizing where it comes from first. It's like,
I
where did you
see.
get the idea?
Yeah.
Oh, you got the idea from something you read or heard online. They told you that this is bad, and therefore that means that it is, and so you shouldn't do it. But
Sure.
it's about kind of rebranding it in a sense and saying, well, okay, you shouldn't. Tell me why you shouldn't. Well, I don't know. It's just what they said.
Can
Well,
you
did
substantiate that claim?
substantiate. Do they know you? Do they know your good example? And I use this a lot. I use it with these kids that I'm teaching right now. Was when it comes to nutrition, this kind of talk always comes up
Sure.
and what it was I said um, Skittles, for instance.
Hmm.
Marshawn Lynch, former running back in the NFL, great running back. He's known for
Yeah.
eating Skittles on the sideline. I said, "Are Skittles? He shouldn't eat Skittles. Is that bad? Right? Um, no, not in the middle of a game. If it's giving him a little quick energy, right? Like everything has its time and its place,
Yeah.
right? And it's fitting for what he needs to do at that moment in time. And so you can expand that, in every direction. It's like the shoulds and
Yeah.
shouldn'ts and the goods and bads. It's like everything has its time and place. Don't
Rigidity is
just do
tough.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Create I
really
think
is.
that's where I've run into this myself with rigidity, that you place these expectations, and some of it's to a degree I found it to be accurate. Like, maybe this isn't the best for me when I've tried something out and realized, like, okay, this isn't great. I shouldn't do this, but it's only because I've trialed it and I'm like, oh, this
Yes.
doesn't serve me. But
Yes.
one thing that I've stumbled into is that when you're trying to get your health on track and when you're trying to feel better for whatever reason, then you can run up against these blocks where you get so rigid that it has an adverse effect, and you're so hard on yourself for not meeting those expectations, and you eat, one fucking carb, and it all comes
Yeah,
crashing down, which I've never strayed away from carbs, don't get me wrong. I'll eat a
sure.
potato in any form, but at the end of the day, I've started to recognize that there are times where I'll catch myself mid thought of, I need to do something later that offsets this. And I hate
Right.
thinking like that because I feel it. I feel myself getting boxed into these areas where if I'm not going at this optimal rate all the time, I'm failing. And I feel like
Yes.
that comes from all of these circulating expectations out there and all of this advice about there's so many things that you can be doing or should be doing. And should implies that if you're not, you're wrong.
You are 100% on point there. We have an all and nothing mentality
Yeah.
in many aspects of our society. And that's kind of what I was alluding to as well earlier with
Hmm.
the Tao, the Tao Te Ching. It's like it's about flow. It's that old Bruce Lee saying
Hmm.
like be like water, right? Be
My
a little
favorite
bit
book
more
might be Water, my
fluid,
friend. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And that speaks to a lot of people. Why does that quote speak to so many people? Because it's something that they actually want. They're like, yes,
Mhm.
that's what I want to be, but I can't because society tells me I need to be like hardcore all the time. And
Sure.
again, don't get me wrong, I love David Goggins. He's got some great, motivational,
Oh, yeah.
go hard.
Mhm.
That doesn't float every single person. And
No.
a lot of the time, what you have to do is understand that willpower is finite, right?
Mhm.
That's where it goes back to the structure thing. I think when we go all or nothing, we're using a lot of willpower. And as soon as we break it, we get this like you just get, everything at the bottom falls out, right? Like
Yeah. It all
you're
got the house of
upset.
cards.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
upset now because but House of Cards is a great example. It's a very shaky platform to be building this structure of health on, which should be a lifelong endeavor.
Yeah.
We
Totally.
look at getting fit and healthy. There's great to have short-term goals,
Yeah.
right? And like especially if I have a competition or there's something I really want to do, uh, I find that there's a disconnect between uh, like what's realistic and attainable with a lot of
Mhm.
people. Asking about, well, should they get a trainer and how do they know what to do? It's like you have to understand first, like, where's your mindset? Is what you're trying to do realistic and attainable?
Mhm.
Or, and if so, you need to find the right person to help you meet those goals.
Yeah.
I'm not the person and it's taken me a long time to do this. And I think a lot of people in the fitness industry, we have egos and we want to do everything well and we know it all. And I am not. If
A
you
one
come to me
size
for
fits all
weight
trainer.
loss, like I'm not weight loss. I am not. I
Mhm.
learned that the hard way through
Yep.
failure. I can help you lose weight, but I am not a weight loss trainer. I'm going to focus on making your body move better, and then we're
Yeah.
going to get stronger. And when all that happens, weight loss will come. But if you want somebody who's going to give you a diet and like kick your butt and like really dial in on you, that's not me. And so my point to the client or the person looking to improve their health is like, if you're going for a trainer, make sure that the trainer is egoless, number one, but is the person that fits your goals.
Yeah.
Is the person that fits your goals,
a
and do
hundred
you fit their
percent.
goals?
Not only that, but I remember being a trainer and I can think back to certain clients that I had where I thought, I'm not the best person to train this person, and I knew it,
Yeah,
but there is this
you're gonna take that money
side
though.
of there is this side of the industry where you gotta capitalize on the opportunities that come at you because it's so competitive. It's so
It
competitive.
is.
And then the
Yeah,
other thing is you I feel like most trainers are empaths to some
yeah,
degree. I mean, you've gotta
yeah,
be, unless you're just like it's way too much work. People don't realize how much work it is to be a trainer, so it's way too
mhm,
much work to stay in it if you're not empathetic and if you don't really wanna help these people. That's why
totally.
people drop out of it all the time.
Oh yeah,
And I think when I look at a lot of it was I felt this obligation if I'm gonna train somebody and they're gonna rely on me for an aspect of their health, if I'm not giving them what they're asking for, I'm going against my own principle of helping somebody. And
totally.
and you have to make that choice as a trainer as well, not just as the client to assess somebody, but as a trainer to really assess somebody. Like if we're going to coach people on how to improve their lives, you got to be willing to stand up and say, "Hey, honestly, I'm not the best person to help you." And
Yeah.
and that can make it difficult because your ego gets in the way. You want to think that you can help everybody and you can't. There's
Yeah.
no way. And the best thing that you can do to help that person is make sure that they find the right person to help them. And if that means that it's not you, take it and then something better will come along. Like the right person for you to help that will stay with you for years. Make way
Yes.
for stuff like that.
It really will,
So,
because that's a great point there, right there at the end, is like you could potentially be giving up your time and your energy for something that you know isn't going to work, and you could be pushing away something that could be better coming along just because your
yeah.
ego got in the way, right?
It's the
Um,
same. It's like all areas of life too. I love the thing about fitness. My favorite part about it is that they're impacting your health again touches every area of your life. So if you think about what we were just saying and opening the way for people to have the right opportunities come to them by making space, by turning down the things that are wrong, it's the same thing with every other aspect of life too. With
totally.
work, with relationships, with like
Yep.
every choice that you make comes at a cost. And I have it noted somewhere to do an episode on this at some point at what the costs are that of your choices and how you can think through those costs prior to making the choice and how that can help you maybe prevent some of those pitfalls. But I
Definitely.
mean, all of it's just to say like everybody, I think when it comes to their health and fitness should take some level of accountability for am I doing the things that serve me and serve others around me and am I making choices that I feel like are benefiting like my health overall? Not just am I making a choice that's, going to make me look good, but you know.
Yes. Well, that is something that I drive home with people when I first meet with them, and I do that. I'm teaching a small elective class at my son's school for
I
seventh
saw
and
a
eighth
post about
graders,
that.
and it's cool. But they get annoyed by me. These 12-year-old kids, they get annoyed by me because I'm always asking them why. Why, well, why do you want to do that? First day of class, second day of class, I was like, give me a goal that you want to achieve. Physical goal. We'll just say physical. What's something that you want to do? And they're like, oh, I want to get faster. Why? Because I want to be better at football. Well, why? Right? And I just keep asking them. They're like, for real? But I do that with my clients too, and I have to be, gentle with it because I don't want to annoy people. But you need to drill down into your true purpose. We a lot of the time set goals that are they have a motivation that is very shallow.
Hmm.
It's like, well, I want to hire a trainer because I want to lose weight. Well, why do you want to lose weight? Because I want to look good. Like,
What is
you want to
good?
look good.
What does
What
that
does that
mean?
mean? You want to
Yeah.
look good. Why do you want to look good? Well, I don't know. I just want to look good. Well, that is not motivating for you.
People get
You have to
uncomfortable by
understand
that
that.
too. They don't want you to question why they want it because they're going to have to face something that nobody really wants to own up to at the end of the day. And
That
I
is
think that's
totally it.
I ran into that so many times. I mean, I haven't done personal training. It's been a while, but even still when I talk to people all the time, I get my friends and my family get annoyed with me all the time. "Oh, Emily, it's not that deep." And I'm like, "Everything is that deep, and I'm gonna go
Everything
there
is.
every time."
You're
Like,
100%.
I drive everybody crazy. But it really is that deep where it's almost God, this is another thing. I'm just giving away all my trade secrets today because I can't, but I knew this was going to happen. But this is another conversation that I'm dying to kick off and to have is how self-awareness is like the door that opens up everything. Because what you're doing
Yep.
when you're saying why over and over again is you're asking them to be aware of their purpose. You're asking them to be aware of like their insecurities. And
Yep.
you step on that trigger and they don't know how to identify why what you're touching and that's just a level of awareness that they don't want to reach and it's so
Totally.
hard that you have to really gently coax people into that and to get them to open up but I think that's you've done such a great job of that. It's one thing that I used to notice about you is that you had a way of disarming people and I think that that's part of what's made you so successful and helped guide you through you know your choices is it seems like the way that your customer base or your client base has evolved has gone from when you got to know your client by disarming them and allowing that conversation and allowing, more learning to open up, it kind of eventually opened up doors to take you down the route that you wanted to go because you started to learn where you resonated the most.
That's exactly right. That is
Yeah.
100% right. Yeah, you definitely do. You start to realize I know who I don't work well with,
Mhm.
now, and that just takes some trial and error for any, I think, for anybody who's younger, trainers that are out there, coaches, whoever,
Yeah.
it's not something you need to stress out about, but you need to just bring awareness to, like, who are your clients? There's people that you enjoy being around, and there's people that drain you. There's people that stick around with you a long time, and there's people that have bounced out real quick after 6 or
And
8 weeks.
you know it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and you knew it was going to happen. Very rarely does it catch you off guard.
Yeah.
So take stock, take note of what who that is and what qualities they have. That'll help you narrow down. It's okay to find a niche. Spending years being a generalist as I floundered a lot. I felt like trying to understand, well, where do I fit in? I know all these things. The more I narrowed it down, the more comfortable I got, and the happier I got with what I was doing. I absolutely love what I'm
Yeah.
doing, so much so that sometimes I do it for free. You
I'd be
know?
willing to bet too. That's if a trainer could train for free and live a good life, they would. If you're a
Really,
genuine trainer, you just have the heart for it, you would do it for free because you just wanna
yep.
help people,
You're
but
just
unfortunately,
helping.
we don't live in that world.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. It's
But
good to make money too.
yeah, that's great. I'm a fan of that one. Um, another question I had, I know we're coming up on time here, but,
Oh, good.
one of the biggest ones is for me was defining holistic fitness. So it's such a buzz
Yeah,
term right now. And I
it
wanted to
is.
make sure that I got your voice on that and how would you define it and who's it right for?
Yeah, sure. I mean, ultimately, I think it's right for everybody, because everybody's human and everybody lives a life. Now, yes, holistic is overdone. Again, I get tired of overdone words like awareness and holistic and
Yep.
breath work and all of these things that get thrown around a lot when people really don't understand what it is. But holistic, in my point of view, and I think this is where the definition really lies, is it's an integration of all things, in a sense. And so, holistic health is not it's not just taking some sort of herb supplements and doing meditation. I think that is a very big. It's like, oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, let's go do some psychedelic mushrooms and we'll meditate and we'll go out to the desert and we're also gonna, sling a kettlebell around and like
And I'm
there's
gonna
this.
call it a day. I'm healthy.
Right, and there's I'm healthy. That's holistic. It's like there's a culture built around wearing beads and stuff now. So
Mhm.
it's holistic health is individualized. I think at its core, it's
Mhm.
individualized. It's what is priority for you from these pillars of mind, body, spirit, and then disseminating out from there and incorporating them all together. Because the way that I see it, uh, the mind controls all, right?
Yeah.
The mind is where we're at. So once I have that set and established as a foundation of how I'm going to proceed and move into my health, that's going to affect my fitness. That's going to affect my nutrition choices. It's going to affect my sleep habits. It's going to affect the way that I manage stress. It's going to affect the way that I do a number of different things. And so it's the integration of all of those, starting with the mind. That's
See, but
holistic health.
this is where I lose it a little bit. I'm gonna challenge you on this because I agree
Please.
with your definition, but I think if I'm putting myself in the shoes of a skeptic, what we're saying is it almost feels like sometimes when we're looking at holistic fitness, we have to ask people to become a generalist in their own life, right? Like that you moved away from being a generalist because you couldn't be an expert in all of those things. But in order to achieve your highest version of health, you got to be well versed in all of those. So how do you balance that out? Because I fight that battle for myself.
Sure. Um, do you need to be a generalist? I think not necessarily because there are areas of your life that we excel and there's areas of a life that we have opportunity to grow in.
Sure.
And so there's no need to um, you know, try to retool something that already works. If I go to sleep
Hmm.
well already every single night and I get good rest, if I know how to manage my
Hmm.
stress well, where's the area of opportunity? Well, I don't exercise, right? And so it's
Sure.
not that we have to
Okay.
start in a, and I never do that. It's like even on the app, it's like I'll start somebody off where it's the lowest hanging fruit. Where's the area that they need to grasp first, and it's going to be the easiest for them. So if that's exercise or that's nutrition, that's where we're just going to sit there. So
Hmm.
it's not necessarily that we have to be a generalist and start pulling in all of these things and be holistic. It's just focusing on what's most important for the time being. Again, health is a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
This is not something, maybe we'll tap into nutrition 6 months from now or 6 years from now. I don't know, but like if exercise is what's more important for you, then let's dive into that and let's learn how to do that really well. I think
Gotcha. Hmm.
when you're thinking about being a generalist and all of these areas of holistic, it's like trying to do it all right now. And that is that all
That's
or
me.
nothing mindset. That's all or nothing mindset that we all get
Yeah.
into.
God, it's such a trap.
That is the and that I'm telling you, that mindset is like probably one of the most detrimental things I see in a lot of clients. They, I had one bad day and now everything sucks and I'm just gonna quit. You
Well, and
know,
I'll be honest, I've had to work so hard and I'm not perfect at it. I mean, I've owned up to that on this episode where I'm like, yeah, I
of
have a
course.
tendency to be that person. And I've reached a point where I'm aware that I can have a tendency to be that type of person, so I can work on it. But really what I've noticed is it sounds like okay, for me, I realized the areas that I was good, but I wanted to be great. And then
Yes,
maybe that wasn't where I needed to put my energy. I'm rethinking everything in my brain now. Like I'm
of
like sitting
course.
here, I'm sitting here like, great, I'm gonna walk away from this conversation and go write down so many things that you've said because it's true. I think what I am realizing I might need to take a step back and do is look at the areas that I'm already good. Don't try to be great. Work on the areas where I know I need improvement. And then when I feel like I'm in a position to maybe try to move from good to great, then I can attack that. But
And
don't go
and
tinker with the system that's working just because you
exactly,
feel like you could be better. We can all be
exactly.
better.
I think that what it and I can totally see where people may argue with that, but I think that where you're looking at your areas of opportunity, you'll find that inside those areas that you need to get better at, they will help you. If you improve them, they will help you get better at those other things as well.
It's almost like that what you mentioned at the beginning from the Dow where it's happening idly. The improvement is happening idly in those areas, and it's in flow, right? Because if I'm working on, let's just take mental health versus physical health. Let's just
Yeah,
use like two really simple examples that everybody can relate to. For your mental health, if you're improving that area, you're seeing therapists, you're working on trying to heal, we're all doing that nowadays. We're all trying to
yeah,
heal our
sure.
trauma, right?
That's
Like,
it.
ooh, I think everybody's got it. And now that we know that, we have to deal with it. So if by doing that, it's inadvertently going to positively impact your
Yes,
your physical health. And so you don't
yes,
necessarily you may end up moving from good to great without even knowing it because what you needed to move to great in physical health was that thing that was holding you back in mental health. And so it all
100%.
does balance out eventually. And it's funny I say all this out loud now. It's nothing that I didn't know, but I get lost in applying that to my day to day. I get so caught up in striving for more. It's that classic, it's almost like corporate America, but on myself, where I'm like, I got to be better. I can do more, blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. And I think holistic fitness, from your definition, just takes a step back and pulls in different areas to look at and say, how can I improve while recognizing what's working and capitalizing on that?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
totally. And something you said there uh, that just brought an idea to my mind is self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to have self-compassion and realize that it's okay to not always be the best or not
Mm-hmm.
always. It's okay to actually slow down and move over to something that's something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's kind of that in the same regard. It's, whenever you're trying to, if you're a writer, you're trying to write, people get writer's block. Just take a break, right?
Walk
Take a
away.
break from it, step back. If it's not working, take a break. Have some compassion for yourself. Know that that's okay. You can come back to it, and you'll likely find that you'll improve after you've kind of taken some time for yourself.
Jeez, Logan, we're right here at the end of time. I've got two more questions to get us out of here. This one should be
Sure,
pretty quick, and
let's
then I
do it.
want to just put the pin on your business and make sure that we hype you up a little bit because people need to learn more from you. And then
Awesome.
I'm just gonna say it right now, we have to do another episode. There's no option.
Let's do it.
Like I've got
Yeah.
5,000 more questions. We got questions on here that I didn't get to, and I have even more now from this
Great.
conversation.
Well, maybe next time we can do it in person with too. I still want to do that.
Oh, we
If we
have
can link
to.
up.
We can make that happen for sure. But okay, so I to wrap up some questions, I want to actually go back to the beginning and say, if I'm trying to start my
Yeah.
fitness journey, say today,
Mhm.
say I listen to this episode, I get done, and I want to make some improvements, and I want to do it in the right way. What's step one? Just that's the very first thing you should do.
Good. That's a good question. I
It
already
could be
alluded to
different. I
it.
know it's different
No,
for everybody,
and
but
it would. It may be different for everybody, but I think everybody at their core, um, you know, take a piece of paper, write out what it is you want to do, and write out why you want to do it. And don't accept.
that's
It's
great.
there's the five why methodology
Mm-hmm.
methodology. Five whys. Try at least
Yeah.
five times to ask yourself why. This is why I
Yeah.
want to do it. Well, why do I want to do that? Well, why do I want to do that? Why is that important? Ask yourself the five whys. I think that's step one.
Yeah. And then that starts building awareness without even having to try.
Exactly.
That's great.
And it might
I
lead
love
you
it.
into understanding what direction you need to go in order to find the structure or the people that are going to help you.
Yeah. And you might uncover in that your actual starting point where you need to go
That's right.
first. Maybe your
That's right.
why is because really mentally you're not feeling great and it's impacting your
Yeah,
ability to get out of bed and do that workout that you know you physically want to
exactly.
do. Ah ha ha. Gold mine right
You're talking
there.
about trauma. A lot of the whys come from when we were kids.
Isn't it the worst?
So, yeah, right?
I actually think healing is probably again, I've got so many episodes planned out to do, but I look at something like that and sat down one day and started writing out a list of the ways that healing catches people off guard and the things that people don't tell you about it.
Mhm.
And damn, it's a process. And
Of
it's just like fitness. It's not linear at all.
course.
And
Of
there's
course.
so many facets to it, and I think that the reason that a lot of people, they dip their toe in it and then they back out because when you open up that door and you see all of the things that you have to do, you get lost and you say there's no way I'm ever going to get better. There's no, like, this is too big of a project. But it goes back to something you said earlier about being present. Just focus on the task in front of you. And eventually, before you know it, you're going to land in that spot where you're a more healed version and you feel like, and it ups your energy to just keep going and going. But
Sure.
I mean, me and my, quote unquote healing, and another one of those buzzwords, but me and my start in that was over 3 years ago now. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's a new subject every day when I sit down and start trying to dig into myself and I think that fitness and healing, I mean, all of that's just a testament to what holistic fitness really is and holistic health and trying to God, I want to eliminate some of the stigma around it so bad. It started out as such a great thing, and I think it's gone this interesting route where if you say it now, people kind of tune out a little bit. But I think we've got
Yeah.
an opportunity to turn it around if we can educate people instead of trying to push or sell something at them.
You're
You know,
100% right.
I say
That's,
that, and I'm actually going to ask you to plug your business, though.
yeah,
So, a
sure.
little counterintuitive, but I want you to talk about it because I want people to know where they can find you and what they can learn from you and talk about your
For
app a little
sure.
bit, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So, right now, my business, my LLC is Elevated Coaching Concepts, which is a broad. It's for doing things like this. It's for doing.
Hmm.
I have plans, right, for that. But my personal training business is Pain Free Movement Solutions. PFMS. I have an app. You can look at pain-free movement on the App Store, Google Play, wherever it's there. You download it, create an account. I get information, and then we can kind of go from there. We can have a video conference call. If you're in Dallas, you want to meet in person, we can do that as well. And it's a great way to, again, going back to that structure and accountability, to help people, understand where they need to start, provide them with some recommendations, some resources. I create exercise programs, workouts. I have my own videos. We've got tutorials, all of these different things. I made pep talk videos for my clients, before they get into a workout, stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of things we can do with it, nutrition tracking, activity tracking, all of this. It's just a really great hub to manage and to keep yourself accountable and to have me at your
Yeah.
fingertips basically at any time. There's in-app messaging as well, so you can text message me and I'll get it, or go back and forth. So it's a
Yeah.
really, really neat thing. If you're here, if you want to see me in Dallas in person, which I love to do, I am working at these two gyms, Lift House, one in Preston Center and one down at the Centrum Building in Uptown. Lift House is awesome. They have really great spaces, and so I'm there working with people one-on-one. Very busy right now. I don't have a lot of time, but I am always willing to speak with people and give my time. And whether that is, coming into a full program for 3 months or a year, or if it's just to sit down and talk and you want some information from me, I'm willing and more than willing to happy to help anybody that comes across
Yeah.
my path.
That's awesome. Well, and then last thing, plug your Instagram. I want people to know where they can go listen to those lovely little
Yes.
videos that you post.
Yes, thank you. I am Coach Lowe. I am Coach Lowe, Lo, on Instagram. Listen, I have no intention of being an Instagram influencer. I don't post every
Mhm.
single day or multiple times a day. I post when I feel like it. I post when something comes to my head and I have time to shoot a video or make a little, a blurb or whatever it is. So you might see 2 or 3 posts from me one day, and you might see 2 or 3 posts for me over the course of 2 weeks.
3 months.
So, or 3 months, whatever. But, I do try to stay up with people. I use Instagram as an educational tool and
Yeah.
a place to spread positivity and, teach people things.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, So,
I think that's why I love it so much is you don't do anything for any reason other than good intention. There's no hidden agenda of go buy my meal plan or anything like that. I had this thought, feels like the right thing to share at the right time, and I'm going to share it. And I love
Yeah.
that. It's
That's it.
perfect. Okay, cool. So the way that episodes end is now, please recommend somebody from your network or that's inspired
Yes.
you for me to interview next, and tell me why. Why do you think I should meet them?
The person I'm going to recommend, his name is Dre Williams.
Okay.
Dre is a longtime friend of mine. We started about 3 weeks apart from each other at Equinox and
No
hit
way.
it off right off the bat. Dre is just like one of the coolest guys I've ever met. He brings that energy. He brings that vibe. I wanted to promote him on this because I know that you'll enjoy talking to him. He runs a boxing gym. It's a group fitness boxing gym near Deep Ellum in Dallas. It's
Oh, that's
called
awesome.
Ding Ding.
Okay.
Look it up.
I love
It's
that.
a really cool concept. They have like 34, 36 bags hanging around, and he gets on stage right in the middle and pumps everybody up, and they do combos, and they teach you how to box essentially in a group setting. It's a really exciting, really fun thing to do, but he's got an expansive knowledge base. The guy is really talented at what he does.
I love
And
that.
has worked with a lot of really unique people. And so, yeah, Dre is your guy.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay, I'll reach out to him. And it's so funny because this the whole reason I started this is because people like you, and I'm guessing too, people like Dre because of the company you keep, but they don't seek out the chance to go and promote themselves. And so I want to promote the people that are out there doing that work and just doing honest work and trying to make an impact in people's lives. And that makes me so excited that you recommended him because I can't wait to share his information as well. So, okay, cool. And And to wrap things up, this is the part where I have to give the disclaimer that the I Think You Should Meet podcast and its content, posted by me, Emily Curry, are presented solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked from this podcast is at the user's own risk. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, or mental health practitioner. Users should seek the advice and assistance of their healthcare professionals on any related medical or mental health conditions and should not delay or disregard obtaining any such assistance. All right, that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in.